Hey friends, this is Cass with Garden House Treasures. Thanks for stopping in. Today I'm excited to share with you how I make these little Dreamcatcher charms. They're the perfect size for necklaces or earrings, and they're really fun to make, so let's get started. I'm going to be using this 20mm ring that I got off of Amazon, and I'm also going to be using some nylon cord to wrap the ring. It doesn't have to be nylon cord, I just prefer it because you can melt the ends when you're finished. And I believe I ended up cutting off about 3 feet here. Definitely give yourself at least 4. I did not have nearly enough slack at the end to tie the knots that I needed to. So just make it easy on yourself and cut that extra foot. So I just pulled a little bit of the string through my ring here, and I'm just going to wrap the tail end around first before I start with the long end. Take a little clip, doesn't have to be exactly like this one, just any sort of clip or clothespin or anything to hold and secure that cord that you've wrapped in place, so you can kind of let go of it while you work your way around the rest of the ring. It'll just make it a lot easier for you. Now we're at the end, so we're going to remove that clip, and we want the string on either side of the ring underneath. And then we're just going to go over top of the ring. We're going to cross the strings and tie them together. Okay, so after tying our first knot, let's grab a jump ring. And we're going to just thread that jump ring onto one of our little tail ends here before tying our next knot. So just putting it on there just like you'd put a bead on the string, and then we're just tying the strings together over top of that jump ring. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie it a third time. So once you finish, you tie it once, put the jump ring on, tie it again, and then tie it one more time. It'll be 3 knots in total. And I'm just pulling it tight to secure it. I'm going to go ahead and snip these ends off now. And then because it's nylon cord, I can go ahead and take my lighter. Yes, go ahead and make fun of me for trying to light the wrong side of the lighter. We're just going to melt the ends, and that'll just help secure them in place a little better, so this isn't going to come untied. And now we've got our wrapped ring ready to go. Okay, so for the woven part in the center of our Dreamcatcher, I'm using this cross-stitch thread. I'm not sure if that's the technical term for it, but that's what it's used for. And it's the perfect thickness for these tiny little Dreamcatchers. If your string is too thick, you're not going to be able to see the weave, and if it's too thin, you're not going to be able to see it at all. So I'm taking this knitting needle, and I'm going to thread it with my cross-stitch thread. And then with the tail end of that thread, I'm going to tie it around my ring, and I want to tie it as close as I can get to that jump ring. So I went ahead and knotted that twice, making sure it's nice and tight and secure, and I'm going to pull that knot down into the middle of the ring. And you want an idea of where you're going to be wrapping your thread around your ring, at how many spots you want to wrap it around. And I'm pointing here to where I'm wrapping it, and it is, I think I go in 9 spots, which does seem like a lot for such a small ring, but if you only do 5 or 6, it ends up with more of that star shape, which is not my personal preference, so I like to do more spots. And I'll try to describe these in more detail for you guys in a little bit so you have an idea of where I'm wrapping them. Okay, so we're going to start weaving. We want this base part of our thread to be going over our ring, and we're going to take our needle and we're going to put it underneath the ring and behind the thread. And it's okay if it doesn't land in the exact spot that I want it, because I can loosen it up and tighten it to land where I need it to go. So I kind of move it up to where I want it. Still not quite right, so just moving it up, and that's a good spot for it, so now I'm pulling it nice and tight. Okay, doing the same thing again. This time we're going kind of halfway down the ring, letting the base part of the string stay over top, and putting the needle underneath, behind the thread, pulling it through. Adjust your thread how you need it, and pull it tight. So at this point, I'm at, in relation to a clock, I'm sort of at the 12 o'clock, the 1:30, the 3 o'clock. This next spot's going to be at the 4:30. Going over top with the base of the thread, underneath with our needle and behind, pulling it through, adjusting and tightening. My next one's going to be down in the center, so it's at the 6 o'clock. So all in all, my first one's going to pretty much be at the 12 o'clock, and then 1:30, 3 o'clock, 4:30, 6 o'clock, 7:30, 9 o'clock, and then it'll be 10:30, and then close to 12 o'clock again. Of course, it's not exactly in the center because the jump ring's in the center, but pretty much my first and last one are at that 12 o'clock. I hope that kind of helps you guys visualize. So our first round of weaving is done, and this is what we're left with. We're going to start our second round. So I'm taking my needle, and this first section that I made, I'm going to go underneath with my needle, and I'm going to pull through, and it's going to leave this loop back behind in the middle. I'm going to take my needle back through that loop, and I'm going to pull tight. We're going to do this with each section that we made in the previous round. Next section, taking the needle, going underneath, pulling through, and then bringing the needle back through the loop in the center. And this round's pretty easy, kind of mindless. You just kind of get into a rhythm here, and this one goes really quick. Alright, so I finished up that second round, and this is what we're left with. So our third round is essentially going to be the same thing. We're going to go into the sections and then come back through our loops. However, I'm not going to go through every section because with such a small Dreamcatcher like this, the pattern of the weave is going to get lost if we go through every single section, and I don't really like how it looks. When we go through every section, I think it looks nicer and more like a Dreamcatcher if we skip a section. So I'm gonna skip every other section with my needle, and it's the same thing. So the round that we just wove, now we're going through that one, but like I said, instead of every section, it's gonna be every other section. Okay, so I'm not done with this round, but you can kind of see where that hole is in the middle. And I know that larger hole is going to be where I want my bead to land in my Dreamcatcher. You don't have to put your bead in this part, you could put it wherever you want in your Dreamcatcher. You could do 1 bead, 2, 3, 4, however many you want. I like to just do 1 for these little guys. You can use whatever size beads you want. I just like to do 1, keep it simple. So I'm just gonna use this little purple bead, I believe it's a 4mm bead, and just threading it onto the end of my string here, pulling it all the way down, and then kind of tucking it into place. And I'm just gonna continue weaving this round as I would have normally. And I'm finishing off this round by weaving back through one of the first loops from this third round, just like I normally would, just kind of closing it off. And now that I'm happy with it, I'm taking my needle and bringing the string back to what I'm considering the back of my Dreamcatcher. And I'm just gonna kind of thread it around to tie it. So I'm bringing it to the front and then to the back. So if you can see where I kind of just bring it around and then go back through that loop that I made to tie a little knot. And making sure it's nice and tight, securing it in place. So this is a GS HYPO cement, This is a jewelry glue that I use for tying knots with string or bracelet making or anything. These knots will come untied if I don't put something to secure them. So I'm just going to put a little dab of glue where I tied it around the ring and where I finished it off in the middle, and it will dry clear so you won't be able to notice it. I just don't want these to come undone. And now we can go ahead and trim off our ends. Alright, so I got these feather charms from Joann's. Large jump rings also from Joann's. Make sure they're big enough to fit around your ring. And these little jump rings came with the feather charms. So I'm going to take one of my larger jump rings, twisting it to open it up. And I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it above my 430 section, if that makes sense. So it's going above the one next to the middle bottom. And I'm just going to secure that in place. Taking our smaller jump ring and our feather charm, we'll put it into the base of the feather charm, and then we're just going to put it into our larger jump ring. And twist it to secure it closed. Okay, so this charm, as you can see, I already have it on the larger jump ring, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it on there. I'm trying to show you, I put it in my 6 o'clock section. So I actually wove the jump ring through the bottom of the thread that's secured around the ring. So it's not going to slide left or right, it's going to stay in the center. And then my third one is going above my 730 section, so the opposite side of the first charm, putting it above that section so it doesn't slide down, and these are going to keep them nicely in place so that they stay separated and they look nice and even. And that is it, everyone. So this is our finished charm. Go ahead and add your findings to make it into a necklace, make another one and make some earrings, make whatever you want. Thank you again for watching. Go ahead and like, subscribe if you want to. God bless.